my creatives, and welcome to another video. So today I'm here to share how you can make your own hardcover junk journal, and today I'm working together with VectoriaDesigns. So this is a collab between the both of us. They reached out to me to ask if I wanted to make a project for a launch day for this new wonderful kit. Of course I said yes because I absolutely love it. So if you are interested in this kit that I'm using today, check out the description box. The kit has a 70% off in the first 3 days of the launch, and the launch is today, so go check that out in the description box, and then I will show you what I make with this awesome kit. So today I'm creating a junk journal with a hard cover, and here I have one of the papers from the kit that I want to use on my cover, and I'm measuring out how big my journal needs to be. And now I'm grabbing this cardboard, which is from an old paper pad. You know that these paper pads have these cardboard backings, so I always keep those just in case that I want to use it for a journal like this. So that's what I'm using here, totally recycling this, so that gives a very good feeling. And now I'm going to use my ruler, and I'm going to measure out 5/1/4 of an inch, because that is the width that I need for my journal. And I'm making 3 marks to make sure that my line is straight once I do it with a ruler. And now I'm also going to do another piece of 5/1/4 of an inch for the back cover. And I'm going to create a 1-inch spine for this book, because I'm going to add 2 signatures. I usually like to fill up my journals quite a bit, so I think a 1-inch spine will be perfect for that. And then I'm going to, here you see I'm going to write out the measurements for you. So the width is 5/1/4 of an inch and the spine is 1 inch. And now I'm going to create the height. I'm going to use the same method. First I'm going to remove some of the glue residue, and my cover will be 8 inches. So the end of this journal will be 8 inches by 5/1/4 of an inch, and that makes sure that the papers that are in this collection will perfectly fit into this journal cover. So now I'm going to use a cutting ruler and a cutting knife to cut this, and what I'm doing is I'm lining it up with the line, and I'm pressing the ruler down very hard with my hand, and then I'm going to cut it. So it's better to cut multiple times over a line than to try to cut it at once, because it's more safe, first of all, and second of all, you will get a cleaner cut when you just do this a few times. So that is why I leave this in for you to show you how I cut. I usually stand up for this process, so I craft sitting, but when I'm cutting things like this I stand up, and to make sure that I put enough pressure on my ruler. So I'm going to measure my covers again to make sure that they are the perfect width and height, and once I'm happy with that, I am going to grab some paper to cover my cover with. So this is some recycled paper. This is paper you get in your orders when they fill up the box if you order something online, and I always keep that paper because it's beautiful brown paper which I can use again, and it's free, so why not keep it and use it in your craft. So I'm going to glue down these covers to this paper, and then I will cut it to size. I'm using Aleene's clear gel tacky glue, and I absolutely love the glue. I did choose to brush it out into like an even layer of glue to make sure that everything was stuck down properly. So that's what I'm doing for the 3 pieces. And with gluing down the spine, make sure that you leave a gap in between the covers and the spine. This is to help your book open and close, because this cardboard also has a thickness to it, so you should at least leave the thickness of the cardboard as a space in between. I usually eyeball this, but you can also put a piece of the cardboard in between there and stick it down, but I usually eyeball it. So now I'm going to cut off the excess paper, and I'm not being that careful, because I know that I'm going to cover up the edges of this. All I want is to have a nice fold over the cover, and I don't really bother about the edges of the paper because I'm going to line this journal with another pen paper. So you saw me fold the edges to see where I'm going to fold it in, and then I'm going to cut out this kind of a triangular shape, but not too close to my cover because I needed to cover up the corners. So you can do it a little bit more to the corners than I did, but not too close because then you will see the cardboard through it. And I'm going to repeat the process as well. So yeah, like I said, I'm using the VectoriaDesign digital because it's a digital, which I absolutely love. You all know that I love digitals. I love using digitals because there are no shipping costs and I run never out of supplies. I had a look at their shop and they have tons and tons of digital kits in a vintage style. It is amazing. I absolutely loved it. The prints are great quality, and I also saw that they have tutorials for the projects, and in this particular folder there is a tutorial for you to make a certain size journal. So if you are a beginner, you can also use these and check out tutorials that are together with VectoriaDesign. So yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I recommend it. I had a lot of fun and I love this kit, so I really hope that you do too. So now you are here, I want to ask you that if you like this content, I would love it if you would give me a thumbs up. I would also love it if you'd consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and put on the notification bell on all notifications. And let me know if you are a journal maker in the comments down below. Do you like to make junk journals, and are they in a vintage style or are they different styles? What is something you like to do? Do you like to use digital kits like I do? Let me know down in the comments. So I'm going to prepare the inside of my cover, and I'm going to use these 2 pages, and I'm going to use some distress ink to distress the edges of this paper to give it a more finished look, because I don't really like the white edges when I'm working with this vintage kind of style. And I'm going to use a scrap piece of that brown paper to cover my spine. So what I'm doing, there are little lines in this paper and I'm using them as a reference to cut a straight piece out of it. So you see me fuss around a little bit to get a straight piece of 8 inches by 2.5 inch, I believe, or 2 inches, to cover the middle part of my spine, so that there's also a piece of paper over there. And here I'm going to fuss around a little bit with figuring out what I want to do with the papers. Do I want to have them on top, under the craft piece? And then I thought some ribbon would look very, very cool. So I found some ribbon in my stash and the color was just perfect because there's also this yellow tint in the kit. And I'm very happy that I did so, and I loved adding the ribbon. For the inside, I'm going to repeat the process as I did on the outside. I am going to spread the glue with a brush and then I'm going to stick my piece of paper down. So I like to work in different styles. So I love vintage kind of journals, but I also love very bright colors. So if you are very interested in seeing more of me, head over to my YouTube channel if you are not a subscriber yet. I do lots of different things. But yeah, I do like a vintage style journal. So here I'm going to stick my papers down, and ever so slightly I'm going in the spine part with my nail to see where the fold is, because I don't want this paper to get off the edge, because that would look like really weird once you open and close the book. So I did that ever so slightly with my fingernail to find the edge of my covers. So now I am figuring out which ribbon I want to use. I decide on this one for the inside. I will use the other one on the outside, but you will see that later on. And I'm just going to use some double-sided tape to stick these down, because often I find that with fabric, glue is kind of a mess. So if I can work around that, I use double-sided tape, and I don't really worry about it, that it will get loose, and if it will, I will fix it again. But I never had the problem with double-sided tape and ribbon that it would come apart. So I'm just using double-sided tape because it's easier for me to use and I don't really have the mess of wet glue. So this is pretty much the inside of the cover, And here you can see the outside is just a brown paper for now, but this is pretty much it. So all you need is 2 pieces to have as a front and a back and a spine. Glue them on a big piece of paper and wrap everything, and then you have your journal cover. It's so simple. Everyone can do it. I promise you, you can do it. Maybe you need a little bit of trying out, a little bit of testing, but this is one of the most easy ways to create a journal cover for yourself. So now I'm going to leave this to dry for 24 hours, and I put a piece of paper under my cover and on top of my cover for the glue to soak in. You know, the glue is wet, so there's some watery substance, so it needs an extra piece of paper to soak in the wetness. And I left that under a stack of books for 24 hours, and then there was Link once I came back the next day to work on this project, and he also had to check and put his weight on there to make sure that it was flat. So now my cover is also flat because it prevents the cover from warping up if you put it on something, under something heavy. So now I didn't know what I wanted to do with the cover, so that is why I didn't do this before my drying time. I recommend you do this before your drying time and let it dry as well. I took a little bit of a risk to not let it dry again for 24 hours, but it worked out fine. But if you don't want to take that risk, just do this up front and let everything dry, because if your paper is wet and you are going to punch holes in it or you're going to bend it, it might break. So that is why you leave it drying for about 24 hours. So now I'm going to figure out what I want to have on the spine as a paper, and I wanted this beautiful paper, and I'm going to cut a piece of 5 inches by 8 inches, and that will cover the spine and a little bit of the front cover and the back cover, just to give a little bit of extra decoration. It does nothing else besides that. Yes, of course, it also creates a bit more structure and a bit more, how do I say that, strength to the cover, but that was not the purpose. For me, the purpose was to create a nice pattern on there, and I'm distressing this with the edges of my scissors to give it a little bit of a distressed look. I know there are tools for that, but I don't have a tool for it. I just use my scissors and I go over the edges with the blade, and now I'm using the distress ink to create some brown edges. And then I remember that I didn't put any distress ink on my cover at all, so I put distress ink all around the cover and also on the inside of the cover. So now I'm going to stick this down as well with the clear gel tacky glue, and I actually really love this glue for making this journal. Was a perfect glue. It's a very, very nice adhesive, and I'm very happy with it, so I do recommend that glue if you're on the lookout for a glue. Now I just stuck down this piece of paper on top of my spine, and I will later on use my bone folder to find the crease again, and we'll do that ever so slightly in the crease to make a crease to know where I need to fold it. But before I do that, I leave it to dry, and now I am back to this beautiful kit, Discover the Woods, and I'm figuring out which pages I want to use. So I printed everything single-sided, but you could also print this double-sided. You can also print it on coffee dyed paper if you would like. I don't have any coffee dyed paper here right now because it's a lot of work to make it, and I didn't really have the patience to do so. So I just work with single-sided paper. And also for the people that watch me regularly, you know that I love journals with a lot of writing space. So a white page is not a bad thing in my book. Once I decided on the papers that I'm using, I'm also deciding how I want to fold them. So certain ones I'm folding inside and certain ones I'm folding outside. That depends on how I'm going to flip through the journal, which page you're going to see first. So I thought it was fun to switch it up a little bit and do different folds. Now I'm going to create my signatures, or at least the stacks of my signatures. So I have these 2 full illustrated pages that I want to have as covers for my signatures, and I'm going to divide the papers that I have chosen. So from my stash I took some grid paper, that I want to put in my signatures. I also have this notebook paper that I'm just going to fold in half. This is from an art journal that had too much pages. I also have this orange paper that is just in my stash. I don't know where it's from. Some green linen cardstock that I thought would fit. Then I have this paper that I used for an art school project, and I had that left over. And book pages. So these are from a book that I turned into an art journal. Then here I have some tracing paper that I cut in half and now folded in half to add to my signatures. And I think I did 10 pages in each signature, 10 or 11, something like that. It depends on what I'm doing, but usually I go for about 10 pages, 10 sheets of paper per signature. So now I'm going to figure out how I want to arrange all of them. So this is more of an intuitive process. It all depends on what your eye pleases. So I like to have certain colors together or certain tones together, and I want to spread everything out a little bit. So I don't want to have the lined paper next to the grid paper, and I don't want to have all the images together and all the pattern papers together. So this is more of an intuitive thing to do, and you see me flip through my signatures quite a lot because I'm figuring out how it looks once I made the journal. So after I finished that signature and I was happy with how the pages were, I went to the second one, and I'm repeating the same process, and I'm just figuring out what I want to do. And I'm going to switch around certain papers because I didn't want to have the exact same signature as the second one, but I did want to use the same papers. So I'm switching things around a little bit and making sure that they are not too much alike to each other, because if they are, that means that there are certain papers, especially at the end of the signature, that are similar, that are next to each other or close to each other in the book. So that is why I'm changing it up a little bit and figuring out what I want to do. So this is usually how I do it. I just go through my papers and have this fun little moment arranging them and checking out what I want to do. And when I'm happy, I am going to make the decision and just this is what's going to be, because I can switch around papers all day. I really love paper. So this is the last adjustment that I do, and now I'm happy with how they are. So the next step that I'm doing is I'm going to cut all these pages to size, and I'm going to start with the middle one. So I'm using this one as a reference because it's the cover, and I'm starting with the middle one, and that way I'm going to cut all of them on order in 5/1/8 of an inch by 7/3/4 of an inch, I believe. That is the paper size that I'm using for all my papers. If papers are shorter, that's fine, but they can't be wider or longer than that size. And now they fit in just perfectly in this little signature. So I'm making sure that they are stacked really well in the crease, and that is a little bit of a thing to do. I also have perfectionism, so sometimes that plays a part, and that happened with this. But I bound them together, and you will get some overhang because of this. And that's because the paper also has a thickness. This is something you can't work around. So what I like to do is to put these signatures together and line them up and just cut the excess off with a knife, as you saw me do. So here I am creasing my cover and ever so slightly bending the paper to make sure that it will not break, because if you do this all of a sudden, it is possible that you break your paper. So do this very carefully and really feel how far the paper wants to bend, and do this ever so slightly by moving it folded, unfolded, folded, unfolded. So now I'm going to find my center point of this signature, which is difficult. So I tried to divide the 1 inch in threes that are pretty much equal. And now I'm going to draw a line to mark where I want to have my signatures. So on these lines, there will be my holes for my cover. And now I'm going to find the center point, which is 4 inches. And I am going to put a hole every 1.5 inch. So there will be a hole at 1 inches, 2.5 inches, 4 inches, 5.5 inches, and 7 inches, I believe. So every 1.5 inch, there will be a hole from the middle point. I hope that makes sense. So I do mark that with another mark, and now I'm taking my awl to create little holes as a reference, so I can make the bigger holes comfortably for myself. And I'm going to erase the pencil lines because I don't need them anymore, because there are teeny tiny holes in there. Now I'm going to put the big holes through my spine for my signatures, and I'm just using the awl for that. So here you see the holes, and now I'm going to use the same measurements inside my signature as I did on the cover. So remember that my signatures are 7 3/4 of an inch. So I try to find, I also eyeballed this a little bit, but the 4 inches, that was the middle point of the cover. I'm going to put that as a middle in my signature. So I'm not using the edge of my ruler to measure it out, but I am figuring out, okay, so I have this little bit of space around my signature on the cover, so my 4-inch mark should be around here in the center of this signature. And that is what I do. I also put some pencil marks there, and all I'm going to do now is keep my signature a little bit like a book, because this works best for me. If you have a better way to do this, by all means do your way. This is my way, this works for me. Just beware where your hands are, because you're poking with a pretty sharp tool through these papers. So yeah, just be aware where your hands are. But I made the same holes in my signature, and now I'm going to sew them together. So I start in the middle hole, go up 1 hole to the inside again, and then I go to the outside to the top hole, then I go 1 down in, and I will skip the middle hole because I want to end in the middle hole. If this goes too fast for you, that is no problem at all. I also have a real-time junk journal tutorial video up on my channel. I will leave it linked down below in the description box, which also goes through the binding and the sewing in a real time. So if this goes too fast, don't worry. You can check out that tutorial. And if you also, like me, struggle a little bit, that's okay, because sometimes the paper just doesn't work with you. Yeah, then it's a very simple stitch, and I make sure that I end again in the middle hole, and with the string I make sure that my tassels, my 2 tails, are on both sides of the middle string, so when I tie it off I have this nice place to put my knot. And I'm going to pull it tight, but not too tight, because you don't want to break your thread. I'm just using embroidery thread here because that's what I use. I love to use it. And now I'm going to sew in my other signature. So I go in the middle, then I go 1 hole up, the next hole up, then I go down 1 hole, and then I skip the middle hole and go out through that one, and I go in on the bottom hole, and I repeat the process up and down. So you go in and out. I think if you have any questions about the binding, just let me know and I will gladly answer them in the comments. So after that, I sewed in my signatures. I also like to start from the last signature to the first signature, so that's why I sewed my back one in first. That's also just my personal preference. But after this, my book is pretty much complete, and all I'm going to do now is decorate my cover. So this kit also comes with beautiful imagery, and I absolutely, of course, I picked the butterfly. Of course I did. I absolutely love this image, so it had to go on my front cover, but there was still something missing, so I'm picking 2 pieces that are more like journaling cards in this kit, and I'm going to use them as layering pieces in my collage. So I picked this green one, and I'm going to use my ruler for one side to create a really rough edge, but I'm also going to distress the edges with my scissors. So I wanted a really rough edge, and that is why I ripped it with my ruler, but if I want to just have a little bit of a rough edge, I use my scissors. Sometimes I don't know how to explain these things correctly, or that they don't sound silly. I'm also going to distress these with some distress ink. And Now I'm going to find out how I want to collage this. If you want to know what I used besides the VectoriaDesigns Discover the Woods kit, there's a list of supplies in the description box for you down below. And if I can find things online, there is a link, but there's always a list of supplies in the description box of my videos. So here I am. I'm going to stick everything down, and now you see why I love to use liquid glue, because it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So I wasn't really happy with where I put my first collage piece, so I made use of the fact that I used wet glue and moved it a little bit around. I'm going to do the same with this beautiful butterfly in a magnifying glass. Oh, I absolutely love this piece. I'm going to add the other butterflies as well that I cut out of the kit. And then I was looking at my cover, I'm like, I'm missing something. So what I did, do you remember the lace that I had at the beginning of the video? I thought maybe it's cool if I put this on the spine. So I'm trying to figure out if it would fit. I'm trying to figure out if it was big enough, and eventually it was, and I really, really like the look. I loved it. Also, this covers up your binding. I do love seeing the binding, but if you don't, you can always put a piece of fabric over it again, or a piece of paper, or like I do, a piece of lace. But usually I like to see the binding. But I thought this would add an extra little thing to this beautiful kit. So I decided to use glue for this, because if I use double-sided tape on this lace, it would be sticky forever on the cover. And I have to say, with this glue, I really liked it because it wasn't messy. It wasn't messy at all. Usually I work with wet glue and fabric, it gets all messy and stuff. But with this glue, it was actually really, really nice and stuck down pretty fast, and it stays down. It's nice and secure there. So I'm actually really, really happy. Love this glue. Once again, love this glue. After the tips that I received from Amanda about the tip, I love this glue. So moving on, I'm cutting off the excess of the ribbon, of the lace, and now I'm going to stick this little piece down so it's just on the front cover and on the back cover, and I actually really, really like that. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do here. After that, I was still missing something, and I do leave a spot open on my journal covers because I archive my journals on a bookshelf. And they have a year number and a volume number. So I do need to have some space to put that on later on when I use the journal. But I was still something missing. And my latest obsession is washi dots. So I checked if I had a color washi dots that would fit this cover. And I found these very, very pretty green washi dots. And I thought, yes, perfect. So I also added my sticker on the back, and I don't know why, because I changed my look. So I don't know why I used my old sticker, but I rebranded my look for Simply Creative Kyra. But I don't know, it's there. I love it. It's my journal. I love to add it, and yeah, I just put it on there. So here I am, my journal is pretty much complete, and then I took some time to fussy cut all of the images out on the couch downstairs. And if you know me, you know that I don't love journals that have things stuck in there, because I need my journal to be a blank canvas, and I don't want to be restricted by pockets or embellishments or anything, because this journal needs to receive my creativity and my journaling and my, I need the freedom. So to remind myself that this is a kit that I can use, I stuck in certain embellishments that come with a kit. So they have these journal cards or embellishments. There are also a few pockets that you can use, some corner pockets. I'm just putting them in with paper clips, so when I use this journal, I can flip through the journal, see what I put in there, and use it when I'm ready to use it, so I'm not stuck to pages that already have embellishments on there. And it looks fun, right? So if you flip through the journal, there's already a little bit in there. Like I said, I like my journals to be as blank as they can be, so that is why I don't stick anything in. And for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to, because that's not true to how I like to use my journals. But I really, really love it. I have some embellishments left over in a pouch that I keep to the side. Same for the papers. So if I want to add extra papers or collage with the papers, I can. And if I want more papers, I can reprint them. That's the beauty of it. So if you are interested in this kit, I'm going to say it once more. This is a kit by VectoriaDesigns. They are linked down below in the description box. Today is April 5th, and for these coming 3 days, they have a 70% off of the purchase of this kit. So go check that out, and I will show you the flip through now of the completed journal. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. I will gladly answer them. I love to answer questions. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, I would love it if you would give me a thumbs up. I would also love it if you would consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Put a notification bell on all notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. And I hope you had a wonderful day today. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye!